dialogue. So take it away, guys.
Thank you.
Well, it could go either way.
It could. So Tim, welcome to Wyoming. What have you thought so far? You got here yesterday afternoon and it's been a whirlwind.
I can't believe how exciting it is and what you've done to bring Bitcoin, blockchain, smart contracts to this state, and what you've done to improve the banking environment, to improve the environment for people who are innovating in this new world. I mean, decentralization starts in Wyoming. This is amazing.
I loved, for those, we've got about 1,000 people online right now. And so there are probably some repeats from this morning, but you brought up some really interesting points about how Wyoming should be marketing itself, as in, come here and build anything you want. Do you mind reprising that for the new folks?
My thinking was you're in a state where it used to be called the cowboy state.
Yep.
And people think of it in that way. It's that place with where the antelope roam.
Yep.
and suddenly you have this wedge into this marketplace where you can be like the Bitcoin cowboys, and you are cowgirls.
You bet. Yeah.
And I was thinking that while the rest of the world seems to want to regulate everybody out of existence, you could be the place where people can build things. And if you say, hey, come to Wyoming, you can build anything. You can build whatever you want. I thought, yeah, come to Wyoming and you build whatever you want. That's exciting for me. That's exciting for anybody who's industrious. And I think entrepreneurs everywhere are going to look and just say, God, well, let's give it a shot, because, if you try to do a renovation in California and you've got to go through the historical societies and the traffic commission and the something. Here, look, it's wide open spaces. I saw it as I flew in. There is a lot of space here. You can build anything here. So anyway, that's what I'm thinking.
I love it. And I think
and I've really enjoyed the people. People here are as nice as they are anywhere in the world.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad you saw that. We last year had about 400 unique registrants to Wyo Hackathon. Obviously, having to go virtual this year, which is very unfortunate. There were about 50 of us last night, and we had a nice time. And some folks voluntarily had masks on, but we really did. It was the first gathering I've been at of that size, and it was an informal gathering,
it's pretty nice to get normal again. And it's kind of interesting and this is a very unpopular point of view, mostly because the media has been pounding the other point of view. COVID and our reaction to COVID has been an enormous mistake.
Yeah, I agree.
And we're looking at, maybe the lockdown saved 10,000 lives. The UN just published something that said it looks like 135 million people will die of starvation because of the lockdown.
Right.
And people won't, the media won't say this, the politicians won't admit it. It was a big mistake.
Right. I agree with you. And most of Wyoming does too. Right.
Yeah, it's a rare breed up here.
You saw that last night. So we'll
actually, it was really interesting last night. That was one of the most innovative groups I think I've been with in a long time.
Yeah.
It may be that I just haven't been with very many groups in a long time, but that was a very innovative group.
And there were people who came from all over, and there were some folks, again, unfortunately, we had to go virtual this year per the university's rules. And again, this is a nonprofit event, so it's a very different conference than most others, because it is truly a nonprofit event, and the university gives us access to the facilities as its donation to the event, which is just absolutely fantastic. So in years past, we've been able, last year, for example, we paid out almost $200,000 in bounties to developers, which is way above our weight class as a hackathon, and that's thanks to the university. So this year it's all virtual, online. We don't have quite as many sponsors, but it's a really different year. But we've had more than twice the amount of engagement this year because it is online. So next year, everybody, make sure you come and do what Tim has done this year and
Come in person.
take a trek to Wyoming.
For sure.
We'll be through this next year.
And it was a great pleasure to meet the president of the university.
He's a data guy.
And the guy who is creating the Bitcoin
Center.
center.
Yep.
There are not a lot of Bitcoin centers in the university systems.
That's right. That's
And
right.
in fact, I remember at Draper University, I had learned about Bitcoin, so we taught Bitcoin to all these entrepreneurial students, and three of them went off and created quantum and became a big deal. But
Awesome.
but then I checked back, and from that moment, it took 5 years for Stanford to consider having a Bitcoin class.
Right.
And I still don't think they have one.
Wow.
So
right.
you guys are way ahead of the game. Having
Right.
a Bitcoin center, I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, but Draper U is an interesting venture for you and a labor of love because you're sharing your knowledge and your family's knowledge. You have 3 generations of successful venture capitalists in your family.
We're moving toward 4 now.
Are you? Oh,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll carry on the family business. But you want to share your knowledge and share your wealth. Talk about how COVID has changed Draper U.
Well, Draper U, we have this great program where the would-be entrepreneurs come to Draper U, and we put them through very difficult emotional, physical, intellectual tests. And by the end, they're very confident and they can go out and they can do anything. And we say, I will fail and fail again until I succeed. Well, actually, the first part of the pledge is I will promote freedom at all costs. So I think
that.
you will appreciate that here in Wyoming.
The Bitcoiners appreciate it,
Yeah.
and Wyomingites do too.
Yeah. So we had this school, and a big part of that school was to create collisions, to make sure people were hugging each other, to make sure people were meeting each other and throwing ideas against each other and building all that. Well, the COVID lockdown, which, as I mentioned before, I'm not pleased with,
Right.
it made it so that we could no longer operate. And so we did an online school. So there's a 2-week online school, and we try to do the same kinds of things with Zoom calls. And we've done a pretty good job of it. It's been the students, the people who have signed up, have given it 9.2 out of 10. The remote one. And we only lose about 4% to attrition, whereas most lose about 93% to attrition, most online schools, classes. So it's been great. And it's helped us kind of think about how we reinvent education and how we rethink our own school, but also how we can connect that online school, because it's actually growing. There now 300 people that have been through it. We're starting to see that as potential deal flow for Draper Associates and for our venture businesses.
I assume that's why you set it up in the first place. So
the school was definitely set up. Well, it was partly set up because all these very wise people said that entrepreneurship can't be taught.
Right.
And when I hear something like that, I always think, well, how will I do that? You know, I always feel like when somebody says something can't be done, I just think, how would I do that? And so that was the beginning of Draper University. But then over time, we realized that it was an amazing source of deal flow, not just from the students, but from all the friends of the students. And the students we've been open 8 years. We've had about 1,200 of the hero trained students. And they have started 350 companies.
Fantastic.
And they've done some really outstanding things, come from 86 different countries. That's a lot of countries.
So speaking of the venture capital business, how do you think about where we are in the digital asset world right now, crypto, whatever you want to call it? How do you think about where we are in terms of investing in the projects themselves versus investing in the companies that are building on those projects?
So it's really interesting. I learned this. I was at Hewlett Packard, and they showed me this curve, but they didn't show the whole thing. What happens is with any new industry, it comes up like a little eye, and then there's a hype point at the top of the eye, and that might have been December of 2017 for Bitcoin. For the internet, it was the end of 1999, beginning of 2000. And then it comes crashing down. And then you have this eye before the storm. And then it comes back and you think, oh, well, it'll never be as big a deal as the hype point. And it blows by the hype point.
Yeah.
And like the internet, Amazon became so big. And it was after, and just after the hype on the internet, people were all talking about how Amazon, who would ever put their credit card online?
Right.
And all of a sudden,
Everyone.
now I just click a button and, water shows up and all these things show up at my door. So I think we're just coming out of the eye of the storm.
Okay.
And the storm's just starting to come back because I think what's happening is, I'll start with Bitcoin. Bitcoin had to go through just like, hey, this is a great new currency, to what can we do with it? And then the fintech world, the DeFi world starts coming in, and that's starting now. And then there's going to be the period when it goes retail, and that's when it really starts to explode. And I think that's within the next couple of years. And that's where I came up with a prediction that Bitcoin would hit 250,000 by 2022 or the beginning of 2023. And it's because, here's 80% of retail is women. Women control 80% of retail spending. And only and it's yours, 1 in 14 Bitcoin wallets are women. And I think when women realize that by using Bitcoin, they can save 2.5% to 4% every time they shop, or by using Bitcoin, they have, it just works better. It's much easier. Everything's better. As soon as that moment happens, I think we're going to see a huge rush to Bitcoin.
So are you more of a fan of Bitcoin itself today, or of the infrastructure companies being built around it and the projects?
Oh, I love both, because I love what Bitcoin is, and because it's decentralized. You can be in Sudan, and if you had a whole bunch of Sudanese money and you get shipped off to be a refugee in Italy, you're stuck.
Right.
But if you have Bitcoin and you get shipped off to Italy, you pull down your Bitcoin, you start your life over and go. And it gives the individual much more power and control over their lives. And that's so exciting. So that's Bitcoin.
Yep.
Well, I love what the blockchain is because it keeps perfect records. And so I don't need the bookkeeper, the accountant, the auditor, to keep track. And down the road, all that's going to be done. And I think that's within this 2-year period too. So I think we're going to be able to do our own financial statements and whatever just on the blockchain, and governments can tax on the blockchain, and then they won't really care whether it's Bitcoin or fiat. And then smart contracts are really cool, because I'll be able to I want to raise a venture fund, and I want to raise it all in Bitcoin or some crypto. And then I want to invest the money in Bitcoin. I want the companies to pay their employees and suppliers in Bitcoin. And I want that whole thing and all that data all on the blockchain. So, and then have smart contracts that cover all the relationships throughout that whole process. I think that's coming, and I think that's going to be really exciting.
You're preaching to the choir on that.
So then here's the other thing. Since Bitcoin's decentralized and all these other currencies are decentralized, we have this new decentralized opportunity. And you know how the internet opened up the world, and all the borders started to dissolve, and everybody was doing business, and we were all better off, and the world got richer, and people were eating better and sheltering better and clothing better. Everything was better. well, then now we have decentralized currency. And it's interesting that a lot of the governments are becoming more tribal, as I mentioned
Sure.
earlier today.
Sure.
But I think that's the last gasp of the dying lion. I think that's the roar of the dying lion. Hey, no, we got to keep it this way because I want to keep my power. But eventually, the best governments are going to prevail, and we're going to have kind of open borders, or very close to open borders. I think that globalism is going to be really powerful because people can operate across borders. So let's say you're in China today. We have a new company. It's called Unstoppable Domains. And you can buy Caitlin.crypto.
Okay.
And you can put anything you want on that. And you can be, so free speech will be global. It will be open and global. So if you're stuck in China right now and you don't like the fact that you've got a dictator again, you used to have a president, now you got a dictator, you can say it and it stays. And I think that kind of, and then, there are other decentralized things that are happening. There's a decentralized jury with Aragon. It's a decentralized jury. I think those are really interesting applications where suddenly the world can operate kind of in a variety of different ways. It doesn't have to all be geographic. It can be open and transparent and global and all the things that we love about crypto.
I have a phrase, code doesn't care. It doesn't matter if you live in a small town in Wyoming and you're writing code or if you're in Silicon Valley. Code doesn't care. Doesn't care if you're female, doesn't care how old you are, it doesn't care. I do have to ask a question. I put it out to Twitter. What should I ask Tim Draper? And overwhelmingly the question was, did you send out the Bitcoin Cash tweet? And did you really mean it? So
terrific.
Away.
Great. Oh, I'm glad you sent it out to Twitter. I thought they'd all be all about Theranos or something.
Well,
you can always ask that too.
Right. And by the way, Ron Paul apparently did have a small stroke today. And oh my gosh, that got everybody all upset. So obviously praying for him. But yes.
Oh gosh. Yeah, absolutely. What an amazing man that guy is. Yeah, I did put out that tweet. And because I think Roger is great and brilliant. And I think all these people who are doing all these interesting things in crypto are doing really cool things. I know some people look at it as a religion and it's like, no, you have to be on this side or this side. I'm just looking at it and saying, hey, this is way better than fiat. It is so much better than any political currency that's out there. Whatever anybody's doing, I am going to celebrate it. I'm going to celebrate Bitcoin the most because I have the most and I love it the most. I'm going to celebrate Ethereum. I'm going to celebrate Bitcoin Cash for all the things, Tezos, Bancor, for all the things that they do that are better than what we've got right now. And so, yeah, I'm going to celebrate them. So, yeah, I'm more religious about the full movement into crypto, the full feeling into the world of crypto. And so, yeah, and it was kind of funny how what the reaction was.
Right.
I had no idea. I was just thinking, yeah, this is great too. Just like these other ones are great.
Yeah. Well, I will say,
although it is true, with Bitcoin and OpenNode, you can actually have transactions go as quickly as they can with Bitcoin Cash. So you can still be in the Bitcoin religion.
Yep.
And still most of the great features are there.
Yeah. And to me, I look at them as just two very different projects.
Well, yeah, one has a little more centralization.
Yeah,
to
a little.
it.
Maybe some would debate about that, but we've actually had really good support from the Bcash community for WYO Hackathon, our event here. Hi, Gabe. I know you didn't make it this year, but yeah. So we've tried to foster open dialogue and open discussion. Personally, it sounds like both. I mean, you're wearing a Bitcoin tie. I consider myself a long-term Bitcoin.
I'm wearing
maximalist,
Bitcoin socks.
Oh, you got the socks on too. love it. I love it. But if you really stick to the philosophy of freedom of money, of true competition in money and denationalized money, then all this competition in money is a good thing, even if you do have a favorite.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing is kind of interesting that I thought, wow, this is great when Iceland created the Aurora coin. And I thought, wow, that's fantastic. They're going to have a currency that's legit and whatever. And then they decided that they would only accept it within Iceland. Who cares?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's so ridiculous. But that is just as ridiculous as China doing their own currency and the US doing their own currency right now. I mean, I get the stablecoin stuff. I mean, that Maker and USDT and all that.
You're a fan of those?
Those are terrific, wonderful, and a way to bridge to Bitcoin. I look at that as a bridge to Bitcoin, but they're terrific. But the idea that that a government does it, it has all the drawbacks, and then it has all the drawbacks. It's digital, but it's also still tied to political forces. And if they decide to print 13 trillion of them, you're going to be stuck with inflation.
You're right.
And it doesn't, whereas, hey, if it's out there and it's either like in Bitcoin's case, there are only 21 million of them. Yeah. In Tezos's case, it's run by the holders.
Federation. Yeah.
And the Federation. And I think in either of those cases, it's a lot better than some political force just deciding we're going to just print a bunch of these things and devalue everything else.
I think most of the participants would agree. We are getting the hook. I would say, come on back next year. We'd love to have you. And hopefully all the efforts of Representative Lindholm and others in the room who are trying to get you to plant a flag here in Wyoming will succeed.
I'm looking forward to doing that. I love what is happening in Wyoming, and mostly it's because of you.
No, I mean, I'm just the public face of this, but you get a chance to see a lot of the people who are behind it. There's a deep bench here, and you heard from Governor Gordon this morning.
I've gotten to see quite a few of them, and the governor is behind it all the way.
Really actively involved, yes, and so it's real.
Yeah, so everybody come to Wyoming. You can build whatever you want.
Love it. Thank you so much.